This meme, created by the brilliant meme maker Grand Old Memes on Twitter, who also goes by the Right to Bear Memes, encapsulates the situation perfectly. It's actually sort of a meme of a meme. You may have seen this one floating around for years. Every time a white person does something terrible, then white supremacy is blamed. But when black and brown people do exactly the same thing, then those stories disappear down the memory hole. This from Newsweek magazine. LGBTQ plus groups told Newsweek that publishing the manifesto from the perpetrator of Monday's school shooting could have serious consequences, meaning it'll reflect poorly on the gay mafia, the LGBT mafia, because the perpetrator clearly did it to support, in their twisted mind, trans rights and fight back against the evil Christians and conservatives who the liberal media says is persecuting the rainbow people, many of whom are more upset that the media misgendered the shooter than they are about the actual shooting, because they referred to her as a woman, as a female, when the dirtbag identified as a man. This from a purple-haired person on Twitter, of course, which is a bat signal to others that they're just bat bleep crazy. 5 times CNN misgendered, no correction. Mass shooting is horrible. Misgendering does not make it any better. USA Today is upset that the police misgendered the shooter, saying that police on Monday afternoon said that the shooter was a transgender man. Officials had initially misidentified the gender of the shooter. No, they correctly identified it. The shooter is a female, or I guess was. The joke going around is that her pronouns now are was and were. Other media outlets continue to hide the fact that the shooter was transgender, and that was the motive for the attack. Reuters is just making it sound like it was some radical Christian. A former Christian school student is the one who did it. Well, technically, this creature did go to that school, but obviously hated it and was forced to go there by their parents, and is not a Christian, was a Satanist. Many twits on Twitter deleted tweets that, in hindsight, aged very poorly before it was known, although it was very obvious that there was a transgender of some kind involved in the shooting. But before it was confirmed, a lot of the rainbow people on Twitter said things like this: "Oh, great, a mass shooting in Nashville that killed children. But tell me how the drag queens and trans people are the problem. Oh, well, let me count the ways." This video is definitely getting demonetized. Not exactly advertiser friendly to be talking about such things. Stay tuned, there's plenty more to come in this video. But this year, sponsor my work through Patreon, Subscribestar, or my locals page, which I finally got activated. So all of those are linked up in the description below. They're basically services that allow you to sponsor your favorite YouTubers for $5 a month or however much you want. Recently, the LGBT extremists have been getting more and more radical, largely as a response to the liberal media continuing to lie to them and telling them that normal people, conservatives, Christians, cisgender people, are a threat to them and to their existence. So we're seeing posters and t-shirts like this from them that threaten trans rights or else, with pictures of a bunch of assault-style rifles. This weekend, the extremists are planning the Trans Day of, quote, vengeance, and claim that there is a trans genocide being carried out against them because normal people don't want drag queens in elementary schools and don't want parents who have some kind of Munchausen by proxy syndrome to put their children on puberty blockers, or doctors to do surgeries that are irreversible on children. I believe it was just last week that Chunk Yogurt over at the Young Turks encouraged transgender people to buy guns, even though he is against guns, and says that he has never recommended anybody do that, but made an exception for them, of course, because it's transgender privilege. It's extra rights for the transgender people.
I'll be a little bit of a hypocrite here, but it's not. I'll explain why I'm saying it. I don't like guns. I would ban assault weapons in a second. We can go on and on about the gun control that we need in this country. And I always tell people, don't get guns, it'll make you less safe. I'm gonna make an exception here for trans people. They are actually in danger. They have had hundreds of laws passed against them. They have right-wing media ginning up fear against them 24/7.
Reporting facts about them, wanting them to stop talking about what they do in the privacy of their own home or what new gender they've come up with, to stop brainwashing small children and confusing them.
They are targeted more than any other group in America. And if anyone should get guns, it should be trans Americans.
This was just posted yesterday after the shooting, not just by some random twit on Twitter. This is Governor Katie Hobbs, the Democrat governor of Arizona. This is her press secretary. Us, when we see transphobes. This is the kind of tweet, if it was posted before the shooting, people would go back, a sensible person, if liberals even have any sense, would go back and delete it. But again, this was posted after the shooting. And there's countless idiots on Twitter and TikTok and in the liberal media ecosystem that are blaming Christians and blaming conservatives for inciting the shooter because we don't want children to be put on puberty blockers or have irreversible surgery because they may be confused about their gender from watching TikTok.
I wonder if the parents of the victims of the Nashville shooting today would still have their children if these trans bills in Tennessee were never a thing. I'm not a parent, but if I were, I'd be real mad at the government.
You're obviously not a parent. You are a crazy cat lady, and it's a good thing that you haven't spawned.
I'd be real mad at the government.
Not at the shooter, just at the government caused it by passing bills to protect children that incited the terrorist. There are countless transgender groups, most of them festering on Twitter, that also blame conservatives, blame Christians, blame the governors of the states who are restricting the transgender transitions for children in their states. The Transgender Network on Twitter issued this ridiculous press release that sounds like it was written by somebody on mushrooms. You know who I think bears a significant amount of responsibility for the cultural clown show that we're now experiencing in America? The conservative Inc. political pundits like Charlie Kirk, who perhaps has been the biggest promoter of the LGBT community, trying to welcome them into the Republican Party and normalize them and stigmatize supposed homophobia of those who just are tired of hearing about them and don't support gay marriage. Here he is sitting down with LGBT community leader Dave Rubin, who was welcomed into the conservative movement by Con Inc.
What I think is the position that needs to be articulated better is I have no problem if, gay marriage, whatever, like I believe marriage, one man, one woman, that's my own personal position, right? But I'm never going to tell government to have someone live a life. I think it's cool, you're married, I think it's great, and you should have all the same tax benefits, adopt children, it's great.
That is the most Orwellian thing I have ever heard anybody say, because the very definition of doublethink is holding two contradictory ideas or beliefs in your mind and believing that they're both true at the same time. So he said that for him, marriage is between one man and one woman, but at the same time, he's happy that Dave Rubin got married and wants him to adopt children. Charlie Kirk likes drag queens, of course. Here he is, posing with one at Politicon a few years ago, giving a thumbs up and a gigantic smile. Yeah, come on into the Republican Party, drag queens. Then Dave Rubin and his husband didn't just adopt children, which should be illegal, but they bought a woman's eggs, actually two women's eggs, at a fertility clinic and then hired two different surrogates and then had them inseminated. And now they're raising those poor children who don't know who their mother is, never will know who their mother is because of the privacy laws regarding donating eggs to fertility clinics. And he gets congratulated by everyone in Conservative Inc., from Glenn Beck to PragerU. Very few news outlets are actually reporting what this is, that this is an anti-Christian hate crime perpetuated by a radical transgender extremist who, in their twisted mind, thought that they were helping transgender rights or fighting back against transphobia. This is the cover of the New York Post, which gets it right. When Joe Biden, the supposed president of the United States, was asked whether or not he thinks that they were specifically targeted because they're Christians or if this was a anti-Christian hate crime, this was his response.
Do you believe that Christians were targeted?
The audio is absolutely terrible. I don't know if you can even make it out, but the reporter is asking him that. Do you believe that they were targeted because they were Christians?
I have no idea. Josh Hawley believes they were.
Josh Hawley believes that they were. Senator Josh Hawley.
Say to that. Well, I probably don't then. Probably don't. No, I'm joking.
He just laughed. Well, he probably doesn't then. If Josh Hawley, says that the sky is blue, then Joe Biden is going to just instinctively disagree and laugh. And like I said, I just joined Locals, which is basically like Patreon or a private Facebook page where you could join for $5 a month, and it supports my work, and then you have access to my Locals community there. So the link to that is in the description below, along with my Patreon and my Subscribe Star. So big thanks to all you guys who sponsor the channel. Couldn't do it without you. I hate doing downer videos like this, but sometimes the story is just too big to let them continue to lie about. So here we are.